I have a problem. I'm currently in the middle of, I kid you not, 67 series. How did I get here, you ask? Well, I'm very good at reading the first book in the series and then completely forgetting about it. So today, we're changing that. Let's finish or catch up to some of the series that I'm currently in the middle of. So we're actually going to start on a different note this time around and talk to you guys about my current read. So I started this book and wasn't going to include it in this vlog, but I decided today that I wanted to start filming this video. And because the book I'm currently reading fits into that category, I figured why not? So the book that I'm currently reading is A Mistake by Elle Kennedy. It is book 2 in the Off-Campus series. And if you saw my previous What I Realistically Read in a Week video, you may have seen that I decided to reread The Deal because I want to finish the series this year. I technically only have one more book plus the epilogue novel to read, and so I figured that I wanted to reread those books and then finish the series and move on to Elle Kennedy's other works. And so I decided randomly yesterday to pick up The Mistake, and I'm now, I want to say 38% of the way through. 42% of the way through, and I'm enjoying it more than I did The Deal. And it's surprising to me because I remember this one being my least favorite in the series, but for some reason the irks that I had with The Deal I don't have with this one. I felt like The Deal was very cringy in its dialogue specifically, but I loved how real the characters felt. In this one I don't connect as much to the main characters. That being said, the weirdness of the dialogue is not there at all, so I am enjoying it more because of that. And maybe it's because I remember this being my least favorite in the series. My expectations were so low, but in reality, I'm having a great time. Granted, it's still not my favorite in the series. It's actually the next book, which I'm excited to reread, but I thought I would not enjoy this nearly as much as I currently am. And so I'm pleasantly surprised by my reread of this one. So I think I can actually finish this one tonight. It's such a quick read. I think it's less than 300 pages overall, and I'm about halfway through, a little bit under. So I feel like if I just dedicate myself to it, I can definitely just binge read this and just mark this book is read and move on to the next one. So that's exactly what we're gonna do tonight. I was right. Last night I did manage to finish The Mistake by Elle Kennedy. I can see objectively, having reread The Deal recently, how this one is better. I feel like it's better written overall. The dialogue is a lot less cringy. While there are some questionable lines, I didn't feel as uncomfortable reading some of them compared to The Deal. However, I will say I did not connect to our characters as much. That's a lie. I actually really liked Logan, but Grace, for some reason, I just couldn't really find myself connecting to. I feel like Anna and Garrett got really vulnerable and we really got to know them in The Deal. But in this one, like, yes, Logan, I feel like we really got to understand and like know as a character, but Grace felt kind of flat for me. I don't really know how to explain it. I should have connected to her more because we're really similar in terms of personality and even like backstories as a whole, and I just found myself not really caring about Grace, and I just really wanted the story to be told from Logan's perspective only. And so I think I'm gonna settle on a 4-star rating still because objectively it's better. I just didn't love it as much as I enjoyed The Deal, but I think because I had more issues with The Deal and less with this one, I can see how Elle Kennedy is improving with every book. And so logically, because I gave The Deal 3.5 stars, I think I'm gonna give this one a 4-star. So now it is time for me to select the next book that I'm going to be reading. I've decided to do something fun and kind of let destiny or fate decide which book I'm going to be reading, because I know what I would want to read personally, but also I feel like I have some series that I have been putting on the back burner for a while, and I have so many where I only have to read the one book to be either caught up to the series or finish the series, and I'm never really gravitating towards those for some reason. I'm always on the hunt for something new and fun, and so I have decided to create a spin wheel with all books where I only have maybe the one book to read in order to be complete or caught up with the series, or I own the next installment, and so I just want to find a way to get through my physical TBR or my KU TBR. So let me record my screen and we'll see what the wheel decides that I'm going to be reading next. Ooh, okay, this is actually one that I was really excited to get to. So I am going to be reading Onyx Storm. So I don't know why I have been excited to pick this up, and I bought this like the week that it came out or around the time that it was released. For some reason I was just waiting for the hype to pass because I felt like I might either be disappointed if everyone else was disappointed, or it might build up my expectations. And now that it has kind of died down, I am really excited to dive back into this world. I love Fourth Wing and I enjoyed the sequel as well, Iron Flame. So I am curious to see where things will go from here, because the ending of Iron Flame just like threw me for a loop. So I am very curious to see what else Rebecca Yarros has in store for these characters. And it's a massive book, but I read the first 2 books so quickly, so I feel like I could just really binge this weekend. So I'm very excited to be picking this one up. This is like the final chapter or the epilogue in Iron Flame, but told from Violet's perspective. Oh my god. I wondered why it felt familiar. I remember now, I love the dragons in this book. I'm obsessed. I am nearly 200 pages into Onyx Storm, and so I figured it was time for me to give you guys an update. First, let's take a moment to appreciate how pretty this book is. I mean, look at these edges and this cover. I'm obsessed. To be honest, it's making me want to read it more. Anyway, I'll be honest with you, it took me a while to get into the story, and I don't know if it's because I read Iron Flame back in the winter, and so it's been like a few months and I wasn't as involved in the story because it's been so long, but for some reason, I just haven't really wanted to pick up the book for the first 100 pages. It took me a lot of, I guess, motivation to push through, and after 100 pages, I feel like it started to pick up and it got me more interested in the story, and I started laughing again, like I was just more involved in the characters' lives. But for a while, I just did not really want to read, and so I feel like it took me forever to get through those first 100 pages, but in reality, it's been less than 24 hours. But yeah, I don't know if it's just like the beginning was super slow. I guess I had expected the story to be more action-packed from the start because this is book 3, and after the events of book 2, I figured we were going to be more involved with Xaden, for example, or even just more focused on the action part of the story. But for a while, I just felt like we went back into the routine of Violet going to school and learning things and not really moving forward with the plot. And I was just like, okay, but we know she goes to school, like, can we just make it more interesting? I don't know. It took me forever to just get back into the mindset of the story, I guess, to get really settled into the story. But now that I'm in, I am definitely intrigued. I feel like the narrative arc that we're following here is super intriguing, and I have a feeling things are gonna pick up from here. I'll be honest, I feel like we would benefit from having some chapters, maybe not all chapters, but at least some maybe, from Xaden's perspective. I feel like his point of view would definitely bring this flavor to the story that we're currently lacking. I feel like this is the one thing that I'm missing from this story, and that is Xaden. He's kind of taking the backseat in this one, and I understand why. I have a feeling that there's going to be like a big reveal at the end. But after the events of the last book, I was kind of hoping to see more of him, or at least be a little bit in his head or something, just to understand what he's going through, because after what happened in book 2, I just had a feeling that it was going to become like the central part of the plot, but it's not the case so far, which like, yes, it is part of it, but it's not all of it. So I don't know. I am definitely curious to see what the author has in store. I will admit that for a while, it kind of reminded me of Iron Flame, and I felt like the two books had kind of the same structure, and it made me worry that Rebecca Yarros was gonna have this formula with these books and that we're always gonna be doing the same things, meaning Violet goes to school, she learns a few things, there's a few action scenes sprinkled here and there, and then at the end we have this big battle, this big epic scene. And I was like, okay, as much as I enjoyed that formula in Iron Flame, I don't want to read the same thing over and over again, you know? But with the events that we are following in this one, I feel like at the place that I'm at, it's going to become interesting from here. I have a feeling that we're going to head into a different direction and not necessarily repeat the exact same thing from book 2. So hopefully I will enjoy it more. What the hell? What was that? I'm flabbergasted. What the actual hell? And we're just gonna move on to the next chapter without understanding what went on? What? Okay, I'm on page 346 of Onyx Storm, and I can't really dive into what's going on because I want to keep this spoiler free, but oh my god, I'm really loving this. It's so different, and it's funny that I say that because I said before that I felt like it was getting a little bit repetitive in its format, but I feel like since my last update we've taken a complete different turn in terms of the story arc, and I'm loving this. This book is more quest driven than the others in the series so far, and I love that about it. We're exploring, we are hunting for this one specific thing, or like two things actually, but they're kind of interrelated. So I am loving this so much. I wish I could tell you guys more, but I really don't want to spoil this for anyone who has not read this one yet, but I love it. I feel like the overall consensus on Iron Flame and Onyx Storm is that it's not as good as Fourth Wing, but so far I've enjoyed both immensely, and I don't know if it's because I wait a little bit before diving in, and so the hype dies down and then my expectations are a little bit more leveled, and therefore I feel like I have less to lose, you know, because I'm enjoying them, but I don't have any grand expectations. But I'm really enjoying this, and I'm really curious to see the turn that this will take because I have no idea where we're gonna go from here. But I love this chapter that I've just read. Oh my god, so much information, but just like, oh my god, I love this. I am obsessed. I have 25 pages to go before I finish Onyx Storm, and so I wanted to record my reaction because I know Rebecca Yarros has something big in store for this ending, if the other two books are anything to base myself off of. There's already been so many good plot twists and turns that I just was not expecting, but I have a feeling there's something even bigger coming. So let's see how this ends. I'm a little scared, but we're doing this. Wait. No. No way. Oh no. No, but I mean, it was only a matter of time, I knew there was something up. Don't tell me what I think happened. No. We don't want that. What? I'm so confused. What? No. What? No. What? I'm so confused. What do you mean? But how does she not? I'm like, I don't understand. He did not. I had a feeling he did though. Oh. And just like that, we're done. What? I will need 2 to 5 business days to just let that decanter. What the hell? Okay, so we're actually going to be doing this review now because I have thoughts and I need to share them. So as you saw, finished Onyx Storm. And like, oh my god. I'm not sure what my rating of this would be exactly because I struggled with the beginning a bit, but I really enjoyed it. I think it would sit between a 4 and a 5 stars. 5 might not be right because as I said, I struggled with like the first 100 or so pages. So maybe it's a 4.5. I loved this book. I love how different it is from the rest of the Fourth Wing series because the pattern, like the story arc is quite different. And yes, there's always like this big battle scene at the end, but it's kind of what you've come to enjoy from the Fourth Wing series as a whole. There's always like this big battle at the end with so many plot twists along the way. But this one, oh my god. Like the ending, it's funny because the last 100 or so pages, like there's this battle that happens and then it kind of dies down, like it gets solved quite easily, meaning that there were still like pages to go, but not that bad. And then it picks up again and you're like, wait, what? I thought we were done with the battle, but no, there's another thing happening. And it keeps you on your seat the entire time. And the ending, obviously you saw my reaction. I was so confused. I still am, to be honest. I see where the author is going with this and I have a feeling the next book is going to be so chef's kiss. I can already see it. I have a feeling, unless it disappoints, but if it does not let me down, I have a feeling the next book might end up being my favorite because, oh my god, that ending just like flabbergasted. What the hell was that? But it was so good. I really enjoyed the pacing as a whole. I feel like, yes, the beginning was slow, but from there it kind of picked up and it became less redundant. One of my complaints or like my critiques of the previous book was that it felt like a smut fest, to be honest, and it was quite repetitive, a little bit redundant. Like it was always Violet going to school, Violet's flying to get to Xaden, Violet and Xaden having sex, and then rinse and repeat. And it was always that whole situation. And yes, we learned a lot about this world and the political aspect of things along the way, but it felt a little repetitive until the very end. Whereas this one, I feel like I was always on my toes and the plot kept moving forward and there were always new things being discovered, new places, new people, just felt always fresh and did not necessarily feel stale as a story compared to Iron Flame, which I did still enjoy, by the way. But yeah, this one, so freaking good. Oh my god, I loved it. I think it might be my second favorite. I think Fourth Wing remains my ultimate favorite in that series so far because it opened up this world and this lore. I don't know, it had the perfect like fantasy book setting. So now it is time for me to pick my next series. And I'll be honest, I'm not really sure what I'm in the mood for. I think I may want to go for something lighthearted. I want to do something maybe that I can binge in like a day or two, something that I can really sink my teeth into, because while I did devour this, like I read this super quickly, but I have been reading this for multiple days on end and it was like a bigger story that I needed time to digest. But I'm kind of in the mood for something that I can read like in a blink. So hopefully the spinner wheel will turn in my favor. Let me record my screen and see where we land. Okay, I'm not sure how I feel about this one. It's the sequel to Aristotle and Dante Discovered the Secrets of the Universe, which I really enjoyed, but I know the author's done problematic stuff since. I wasn't necessarily planning on reading that anytime soon, but it's an audiobook, so I feel like I could listen to that while doing other things, like maybe this weekend while I clean and whatnot. So for now, we're definitely gonna get started with that. Sorry for the dog, I'm not sure if you can hear it, but it happens all the time. But I think I'm also gonna pick another series to continue, because while I will start this one, I do need a physical read as well. And this one I only had the audiobook for. So, all right, let's do this. Okay, I'm not sure if I want to veto this because I just read a fantasy, and while I know I enjoyed the first book in that series, I don't know that I want to read another fantasy now. I think we're gonna spin again. Not because I don't want to read this, I do, but it's just, I just finished a big, massive fantasy book. We need something different. Come on. Okay, so I will be reading the third and I believe final book in the Wilmot Sisters series by Chloe Leese. I had an arc of that book that I received, I think it was like towards the end of the year, and the book came out, I want to say like early 2025, but I never really got around to it. So I have an arc. It's going to be an ebook, and it's a series of Shakespeare retellings set in like a contemporary settings. They're romance. Usually they're fun. So we'll try that. I have been making progress with both of my books, and so I figured it was time for a reading update. Let's start with the first book that I just was reading, which is Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World by Benjamin Eliasons. So this is a sequel to Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, and it's been like, I don't know, over 5 years since I read that book, and I remember loving that book. I gave that a 5 out of 5 stars. And so I didn't think that there was going to be a sequel. It was released much later, and I was curious, obviously, but I wasn't necessarily eager to pick up the sequel because the first book wrapped everything up so well. Though I'll be honest, I don't remember a single thing about that book. I know I loved it, and I kind of know the grand lines of like what the book was about, but I honestly don't really know what the plot was or like who the characters were or anything. But I have made some reading progress. I don't know exactly where I'm at because I'm listening to the audiobook, but I'm like, I don't know, an hour and a half into the audiobook. I'm listening on 1.75 speed though, but I have about like 4 hours and a half left. And so I have been making decent progress, I would say, today. And so far I'm liking it, but I will say I find that it's a little bit on the nose. I feel like the author is trying too hard to be a good writer, if that makes sense. Like I feel like the characters, they're organic, but the way that the book is written just feels very repetitive, but also like you're trying to make it flowery and have these grand philosophical things being discussed. Well, I don't know. I just feel like the author is trying too hard. Plot-wise, not much is really happening, to be honest. I feel like for being an hour and something in, I thought there would be more of a cohesive plot going on, but so far it's been kind of like these vignettes, little scenes set in time, and like we follow Ari and Dante as their relationship evolves. But yeah, I'm liking it, but I'm not obsessed with it the way that I loved the first book. Anyway, now let's talk about the second book that I started reading yesterday, which is Once Smitten, Twice Shy by Chloe Leese. So this is a third book in the Wilmot Sisters trilogy. I don't know that I explained what this series is about. Basically, we're following 3 different sisters, and each book focused on a different sister. This one follows Juliet, and it's a 12th Night retelling. All of the books in the series are Shakespeare retellings, and this one is 12th Night. Now, I will say I did not love this series as a whole. I think every book I've given 3 stars so far, and it's kind of what I'm feeling about this. I wouldn't say it's a bad book, but it feels very surface level. It feels like it's gonna be a good palate cleanser, but I don't know that I will be obsessed with it. Here's why. I think Chloe Leese, her romances are too sweet for me. I feel like once the characters get together, I just have no reason to root for them because they just are obsessed with each other, like from the get-go. And this is already where our characters are at. Here's the thing. In this book, we're following Juliet and Will, and both of them meet in Scotland like a few months ago. And then we are back in the present time and they meet again, and they kind of strike this deal where they will attempt to be together, but like in a practice way. So they're going to be fake dating to help each other become better daters and just better at romance. But we both know, like you and I, we know that they're already obsessed with each other, and they already are obsessed with each other. They already said that on page, but they're kind of putting these roadblocks to not be together, and I feel like there's no conflict right now. Honestly, I don't see the reason why they cannot be together. It doesn't make sense to me. And then the reason behind the deal also makes almost no sense to me. I feel like I understand Juliet's reasoning because she is coming out of a toxic relationship and now she's trying to find her feet again in romance. Like she wants to experience romance again. She wants to trust again. I can't understand that. But Will, I'm just like, nah, I'm sorry, dude. I don't understand. Basically, Will's family owns a whiskey distillery and they want him to take over. But in order to do that, he feels like he has to have a partner, someone to do the more people portion of the business, because Will is neurodivergent and he's not really good with people. And so he knows he's good at the business part of things, but he needs someone to make the connections and, you know, be the people, like the front man of the operation. And for some reason, he got it into his head that he needed a wife to do that. And that's why they get together. And I'm just like, but why would he have to have a wife to run this business? Like, why can't he ask one of his multiple siblings to help with that, or just hire someone to be the frontman of the operation? I don't know. So far, I don't really understand the reasons, and it sounds a little silly. I don't know. I just feel like there's no real conflict. I don't really understand our characters' motivations. That being said, I'm not hating it. I already read like 25% in one sitting in like an hour and something minutes. I already read so much, so I have a feeling that I could just binge this. And as I said, I think it's gonna be a nice palate cleanser. I don't think I'm gonna hate this because I like Chloe Lisa's writing. I like how she always manages to incorporate like representation for either disabled people or people with mental health struggles or neurodivergent people or people on the LGBTQIA plus spectrum. I just feel like she's good at representation and her writing is not bad. Like it's very breathable, very bingeable. Like it's super easy to read. Obviously I flew through the first 25% of this book, so I feel like I can just continue in that direction, but I don't know that I will be connecting to the story too much. Hopefully I'll be wrong and I can come back and be like, I love this book. But so far I have a feeling it'll be a 3-star like the rest of the series. Time for a reading update. So I did finish reading Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World, or whatever the name of that book is. And I will say I did enjoy it more as the book went on. However, do I think it's a sequel that you absolutely have to pick up? The answer is no. I will say the first book stands on its own and I don't think you need the sequel to really get the full idea of Ari and Dante's as characters and their story. That being said, if you did enjoy the characters in the first book and just want to see them being explored and really pushed outside of their comfort zones, pick this book up. Because one of the things that I enjoyed the most about this one is a character exploration. I feel like the author really dug into the character's identity and tried to make them full-grown people. They were already developed in the first book, but I feel like we really pushed them and really kind of solidified them as characters and as people in the second book, and I really appreciated that about it. Another thing that I really liked character-wise is the fact that the cast expanded. In the first book, I felt like we really focused on Ari and Dante, and obviously there are other characters that they interact with throughout the story, but it really focuses on those two characters. In this one, we expand the cast of characters and they take more part of the story. They really shape Ari as a person as well, and I just really liked how we still managed to keep this really solid relationship between Ari and Dante, but we also added in new people. However, I will say plot-wise, not much really happens. It's a very slice of life book with little vignettes that happen through time, and while I did enjoy it, I did also find that it was a very casual read. I felt like I didn't really have to actively listen in order to understand what was going on. So this could be a pro, but it also can be a con because I didn't necessarily feel immersed in the story to the point where I had to stop everything and just listen. And one of the things that I'm not sure how I feel about is the writing. So I did feel like sometimes the author was trying too hard to be, I don't know, flowery and have like these impactful and emotional sentences, but at the same time, I will admit that it's well written. The writing is very simple, yet it packs a punch, and there are certain lines that really make you think, but I think sometimes it felt a little pretentious, and I don't know if it's because it's been a while and the author has always written this way, and I was younger and more impressionable back then, and so the writing really stood out to me, but now I was just like, okay, I think you might be trying a little too hard here. But as a whole, I will say I did enjoy the story. I think I would give this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I liked it and I found it to be interesting. So with that, we have 2 series that I've either caught up to or finished in this vlog, which leaves us with 67 series yet to complete. So 2 down, 67 to go. I did finish reading One Smitten, Twice Shy by Chloe Leese, and as expected, I'm going to settle on a 3 out of 5 stars. I think the more I read Chloe Leese, the more I realize that she might not be the author for me. It's not that I don't enjoy her writing, because I think she's great at great representation when it comes to the characters. I find that her writing is super readable and her characters are strong and well established. However, I find that her romances are a tad too sweet for my taste. I am someone who enjoys angst and tension in a romance, and this one did not deliver on those vibes, and I think that was my issue with the rest of the books that I've read from her as well. I just find that in this one specifically, there was no conflict whatsoever, and while I don't need a conflict for a romance to thrive, I think it adds to my enjoyment level. I don't need a third act breakup because I think 90% of the time they are annoying, but I did want to see a little bit more, I guess, reasons for them not to be together. It was obvious from page 1 that these two were going to end up together and that they were already in love with one another. And I think that's my biggest issue, because with romance, you always know that the characters are going to end up together. I think it's kind of a given of the genre. That being said, in this one, it was, as I was saying, obvious from page 1 that they were already heads over heels in love with one another. And I kind of wanted them to struggle a bit more with their feelings before reaching the ending. So I don't know, I did not hate this. And I think if you like books with great communication, with no third act conflict, and overall like solid characters, great representation, and you enjoyed your super sweet romance, I think you're gonna love this, but it just isn't my personal preference. And with that, we are now at 67 series that I need to complete. Not bad, we're making progress, but I feel like we're back to square one because the very first video I did completing series, that was the number that we were at. But progress is progress and I'll take it. Now I need to pick my next series, and so we're gonna spin the wheel. I did want to say I did edit the wheel and added a few more things on it. So initially it only had series where I had 1 book left to read to complete the series and I owned some kind of copy. So it could be something on KU, a physical copy, or an audiobook, but I only had the 1 book to read to be up to date. Now I kept those and I added a few more series that I'm kind of in the mood for, things that maybe I have on Kindle Unlimited where I have 2, maybe max 3 books to read in order to be caught up. Nothing too crazy, but just things that I think if I picked up right now, I would be in the mood for, and I have access to a copy in some capacity. I've also edited the color scheme because I was playing around with the options available online, and I figured out that there are themes available color-wise. So let's spin and see what we land on. I'm scared. Ooh, the Inheritance games. So I have completed the original trilogy, but I have not read any of the new stuff that has come out since, including this one. So the next book that I will have to read is the Brothers Hawthorne, and I don't really know what this one is about. I know it follows Grayson and Jameson, but I don't really know the plot of this as it takes place outside of the storyline from the Inheritance games. I am quite curious because I did love the brothers dynamic, like all of the relationships within this family. The only thing that I know here, it says 2 games, an ocean apart, Hawthorne's play to win. So I don't know, I loved the Inheritance games. I think overall I gave this series like a 4 out of 5 stars. It was a really solid read for me. So I'm excited to dive back into this world and continue the series. So I am currently on page 170 of the Brothers Hawthorne, and so far I will say the vibes of this one are slightly different from the rest of the series. So in the inheritance games, we're following Avery, and at the beginning of the book, she inherits this massive sum of money from this billionaire. The only catch is that she has to move into the house with the rest of the family. Obviously, since they did not inherit any money, the situation is tense, as you could imagine. One thing that I need to mention is that this old man is fond of puzzles and riddles and games, and Avery teams up with the Brothers Hawthorne in trying to find out what happened and how she managed to inherit all of this money. Basically, she wants to find out why she was chosen to inherit this large sum of money. And in the Brothers Hawthorne, we're following two of the Hawthorne brothers, more specifically Grayson and Jameson. Grayson is trying to find this safe deposit box, and Jameson is on a quest of his own, and he's trying to get into the secret society club situation, and he basically is tasked with retrieving something that his father gambled away. I don't know why, but even though I'm fond of the characters, I'm really glad to be back into this world with these characters. I find that this one is lacking a little bit for me, and I think it's just the fact that there are, so far, not a lot of games and riddles and puzzles, which is one of the main reasons why I really enjoyed the inheritance games. So I find that it follows a more traditional mystery format, and while it's not a bad thing, I'm kind of missing that special aspect that made me really fond of the series to begin with. I'm a little bored, I'm not gonna lie. I find that even though there's like a mystery in both Jason and Grayson's timelines, I just find that I'm not really interested in the plot, to be honest. It feels like it's a part of the rest of the series, and it makes sense because it's taking place, I don't know, a year or months after the events of the first 3 books, but it feels like the end of something, and it feels like it's a part. I don't know if like the author was not planning on writing this and like added on to that. I'm not too sure. I just find that it's a little bit like milking the characters. I think I would have rather ended on the final gambit instead of adding this, because so far it's not bringing anything to the table, to be completely honest with you. I don't feel like you have to read it to get a satisfying ending for the first 3 books. I don't know if I'll be feeling any differently as the plot progresses, but so far not super into it, though I will say it is super readable. I had forgotten how short the chapters in this book can be. Like, we're talking 5 to 7 pages. I am flying through this. I feel like I've barely read anything, and yet I'm 170 pages in, so it is something that I find that I will be able to fly through, and I'm really glad that we're finally tackling a book from my physical TBR. But at the same time, I'm just like, ugh, should I DNF? I'm not too into it, but I'm still early on considering how long this book is. Like, it's nearly 500 pages. I feel like maybe I haven't really scratched the surface, but at the same time, for being 170 pages in, I wish that I felt something more. And it could just be that it's been a while since I read a book in this series. Like, I think I finished the final gambit in 2022 maybe? So it's been like 2-3 years, maybe more. But I don't know, I just find that I'm not as invested as I thought I would be, and unfortunately it could just be that I need to move on from this series and this world, but we'll see. Maybe I'll change my mind. Good morning. My breakfast is cooking, so I figured I would give you guys a little bit of a reading update because I did manage to make quite a bit of progress with the Brothers Hawthorne. I'm currently on page 270, so I'm more than halfway through, and I will say it has gotten more interesting. Initially, I was more invested in Grayson's storyline because he is my favorite of the 2 brothers, but I will say that now it's kind of flipped. I prefer Jameson's story as of now. I feel like it has kind of evolved into the direction that I enjoy about the inheritance games, which is the whole games and puzzle. Without spoiling what happens, I just feel like we're finally headed back in that territory, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Whereas with Grayson, it's more character development. It's very character focused, which I don't hate, but so far it's still very traditional mystery like, and so I am not enjoying it, but just enjoying it less than I am Jameson's storyline. So I am curious to see where things go from here, because we had some massive reveals in the last few chapters that I read before going to bed last night. So I am excited to continue, and I feel like even though I felt very mid about it at first, it is picking up, but I will say I'm still feeling kind of mid about it. It's still not my favorite in the series. feel like I haven't updated you guys in ages, but I did just get back from a weekend at my parents' where I unfortunately burnt a little bit, as you may be able to tell. That being said, I did manage to finish The Brothers Hawthorne by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Unfortunately, this book wasn't really for me. The fact that it took me 6 days to finish it should tip you off as to my rating of this book. I am gonna settle on 2.5 stars. I, for some reason, never really got into the story. I feel like this was just a snooze fest. Even when it got interesting, I just wasn't enticed to pick it up. I never really wanted to continue reading. I had to force myself to finish it. And even though the chapters are short, I just felt like I was forcing myself to read the book and I wasn't necessarily enjoying my time. And at one point, I just felt like I was reading the book to finish off the series and not because I wanted to. Honestly, I should have maybe DNF'd, but I kept thinking that it probably would get better. And like, while the ending is interesting, and I will say I don't find anything wrong per se with the story, but for some reason the pacing of this one I really struggle with. And I don't know if it's because it followed two characters or like, I'm not sure what's different about this one. It could just be that I've moved on from this series and I'm not really as into it as I used to be. But yeah, this is a sad way to end the series because unfortunately this is the last book in the main Inheritance Games series. I know that there's a novella bind up that comes after this if I want to read it. That being said, I don't feel really enticed to pick it up, especially right now after my reading of this one. I may want to pick it up in the future, but it's not a full-length novel and you don't have to read it before diving into The Grandest Game, which I thought was part of the main series, but it's actually a new series and the setup for it happens in this one. But I thought it was a continuation of the Inheritance Games, but I think it follows like brand new characters, but it's set within the same world. So I may end up picking up that one, but for now, I think I'm glad that I'm done with this series. Finally, we can cross it off our list, but I'm sad that it ended up not being as fun for me as the first 3 books were. So now it is time for us to pick our next series. And I will say, I kind of want something fun, quick, lighthearted because I feel like I've been dragging myself to read this one. So I would love to have like maybe a contemporary or a romance where I could really binge in like a few days and be done with it. So we'll see what the wheel says. Let me record my screen and see what we actually land up on. Ooh, yay. Okay, so we're gonna be reading a KU story. I don't know where I'm at in this series. I think I'm at El Mary. This is a series by Candy Steiner, I think the name of the author is. I really enjoyed some of the books in that series. Some of them were so-so, but I feel like I binged those. So it's perfect. It's right what I wanted. I am so happy about this. I am 34% of the way through El Mary by Candy Steiner, and this book I think is for the girlies who love a Cinderella story. So let me tell you about the plot. We're following Leo and Mary, and both of them met through this online gaming situation. They've been talking over the phone, sending each other text messages, but they never met in person. Fast forward 7 years, both of them are going to the same college, and they're about to become roommates because Mary's living situation has become unlivable, and so she has to move in with Leo and his teammates so that she has a roof over her head. I am already so obsessed with this book. I am only 34% of the way through, and I have a feeling that this book might be my favorite one in the series so far. I don't want to talk too soon, but let's just say that I don't remember the last time I felt this strongly about a book, especially in the series. Like, I've enjoyed all of them, some of them more than others, but this one I think it has this quality that reminds me of Blindside, which so far has been my favorite in the series, and I just have this feeling that this book might top it. Really curious to see where it goes from here because I'm obviously only a third of the way in, but so far I'm having such a great time. I'm already loving Mary and Leo as characters a lot. I love how they already have some depth to them. I feel like they're real people. I feel like I can easily connect to them. I will admit that I'm connecting a little bit more to Mary because we have similar traits and I kind of see myself in her in some regards. And so I was reading the beginning and I was kind of tearing up already after like 2 chapters, but I just connect to her as a person a lot, and I'm really loving the direction that the story is taking. Like the whole, they used to know each other, but some of them don't know that they know. I don't know, it's just so good. It reminds me of the pen pal trope, but it's a little different obviously, but I'm obsessed with it. I cannot wait for everything to just fall apart because I have a feeling that's going to be the culmination of the story, but it's going to be so good. I cannot wait to read that. So anyway, I'm really enjoying this. I love the dynamic between the different characters, and overall I'm just really excited to see the relationship between Leo and Mary just get stronger because so far like they've been a little bit distant. They've been kind of testing the waters in terms of their friendship, but it's been like a kind of will they won't they situation, and it's killing me because I know it's going to be so good once they get together. I'm so excited for that moment. But anyway, I am excited to get back to reading, so that's exactly what I'm going to be doing right now. have finished reading Hail Mary by Candy Steiner, and it's getting a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this one. I really love the forced proximity trope in this one, as well as the kind of anonymous pen pal situation, even though it was not an anonymous pen pal. I don't know what the trope is, but the whole thing with like the past and them as teenager and meeting online and everything, I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I kind of wish that that conflict had been dragged a little bit more. I loved the tension before they got together, and I feel like I would have enjoyed this book even more so if it had been dragged a little bit further, because I'll be honest, I lost a little bit of interest once they got together. It's not that I didn't think their relationship was worth paying attention to once they did decide to get together, but I really enjoyed the tension prior to, and I feel like it was so good and exactly what I wanted. But after that, I just felt like it got a little bit repetitive. That being said, I think overall this is my favorite one in the series. I really enjoyed this one. I love the characters, especially in this one. Leo and Mary felt both like very well-rounded, flawed, and personable characters. I just love how real they felt to me, and I really love their relationship. I feel like Candy Steiner really outdid herself with this one. I am super excited to actually pick up the next book in the series, which is False Start, and it's featuring Kyle, though I don't think I'll be picking it up now unless the wheel decides that it will be doing that. So overall, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Highly recommend if you guys are looking for a fun sports romance. This one is really fun. I love this series. If you enjoyed the off-campus series, I think you would really enjoy this, and I'm excited to continue and finish the series. Maybe in this vlog, who knows? Now I'm going to spin the wheel and see what I'm going to be picking up next. Ideally, I'd love to have a physical book because I feel like I've been reading a lot on my Kindle this year, and I would love to make a little bit more of a dent into my physical TBR. So hopefully this is what we'll land on, but honestly, I will read anything the wheel picks. So fingers crossed, but I would be happy to read any of the books that are on this list. So let me record my screen and spin. Oh, okay, so we're gonna be reading an audiobook. So I'm gonna be reading the next book in the Veronica Speedwell series. I don't own a physical copy of that, so I'm gonna be listening to the audiobook because I love the audiobook for these. So I'll be picking that up. We're gonna spin the wheel again because I also wanna have a physical read, whether that's on my Kindle or an actual physical book, because as you know, if I do an audiobook, I know I will want to have other things going on as well. So the audiobook will be great for me to listen to what I'm like doing chores or just walking around or doing something else, but I want something for when I want to be physically reading. By the way, I think in the Veronica Speedwell series, I'm at number 7. So let's spin the wheel again. Okay, you see this one is another one that I have a physical copy of it, but I think I would prefer listening to the audiobook. So we're gonna spin it again because I don't want to have 2 audiobooks going on at once. So let's try again. Oof, I was kind of hoping that we wouldn't land on this one. So this would be the last book in the Dreamland Billionaire series. I'm kind of glad that I would be crossing it off, and I might DNF because I've given both books 1 and 2 3 out of 5 stars, and I wasn't that interested in picking up the last book. But you know what? The wheel is chosen, so I'm gonna have to see if I can get it off of KU, and we'll be trying the last book in the Dreamland Billionaire series. Time for a reading update. So I'm now 28% of the way through Final Offer, and so far I will say I am pleasantly surprised. I was a little disappointed when the spinner wheel selected that book because I didn't love the first 2 books in the series, but I have heard that this one is quite different from the first 2, and so this could either go really well for me since I didn't love them, or it could go bad. But so far I will say it's headed in the right direction. So we're following Cal and Ilana, and it's a second chance romance. So they used to be together, they broke up, and now 6 years later Cal has to move back into his grandfather's father's home and sell it. But the thing is, Alana lives there and she didn't know that the house had to be sold. So they kind of butt heads and they fight. There's a little bit of tension there. And so far, I will say I'm enjoying the direction that the book is taken. I was rereading my old reviews to see why I didn't love the first two books, because I was reading this and I was like, you know what? It's not that bad. Is it because I was building it up in my head? But I think what is making the biggest difference for me so far is that I actually love Cal. In the first two books, I didn't love Declan or Rowan, and I love our female main characters, but I couldn't really connect with the male characters. I just felt like Lauren Asher was writing male characters that I didn't love. I felt like her writing wasn't for me. But with this one, I'm actually liking Cal, and I feel like it's probably because it gets vulnerable. This book deals with addiction, alcoholism, drug abuse, so if that's something that's triggering for you, I would recommend stepping away from it. But personally, I am really enjoying the discussions that we're having in this one. So I will say, so far, not a bad experience at all. I think I might end up loving this one more than I did the other two. So could this be my favorite book in the series? Time will tell, I guess. Now, I am about to start my little Sunday reset, so you know I'm about to listen to the Veronica Speedwell audiobook, so I don't have a reading update for you on that front yet, but I have a feeling that towards the end of the day, I'll be able to give you a better idea of what the book is about and what my thoughts are in it so far. So, change of plans, I ended up binging Final Offer instead, and I believe we have a new 5 stars on our ends. It's funny to me that this book ended up being my favorite in the series because I was so apprehensive diving into it. I think my expectations were higher for the first 2 books, and so I dove into this one with barely any, and I thought, you know what, I might even DNF it, and I think that attitude kind of helped me enjoy this more. Overall, I really loved Cal and Ilana. I loved their connection. I loved how this one tackled harder realities, and so I just enjoyed the way the author managed to integrate those topics with a more lighthearted story. I think it was such a strong finale for the series. I am very happy that I've given this one a shot, because otherwise I wouldn't have found one of my new favorite books of the year, and so I'm really glad that I finally read this one. And with that, I think we're gonna wrap up this experiment here. I had such a fun time reading series for about a full month, and initially I was gonna do this video for like a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks, finishing a few series here and there, but I've made so much progress, and I know I was supposed to be reading Veronica Speedwell in this one, but I'll keep it for another vlog, don't worry about it. I will still be making my way through the series, but I thought it would be fun to finish this video by recapping my stats and just like where we started from to where we're now at, and also just give you an idea of like how many series I completed and everything, because I feel like I didn't keep track as I was going along. So we started the vlog with 69 series that I either wanted to finish or catch up to. In this vlog, I read 7 books. Out of those, I completed 4 series, caught up to 1, made progress with 2, and that now means that I have 66 series that I need to complete or catch up to. I feel like I have barely made any progress, but when I look at the stats, I know the progress is there. In my defense, there are a couple of series that were not necessarily on the list, but now there are sequels that have come out, so I now have to catch up to those series. I was caught up before, I am no longer, so I do think that has had an impact on the numbers that we see here. But that being said, I am still very happy with the fact that we managed to complete a couple of series in this video, because that means that I have officially reached my goal of completing 10 series this year. So my yearly goal is accomplished. We're not gonna rise that to 20. I think it's doable. And so I guess this series ain't over, guys. We're definitely gonna be doing this again. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video.